Welcome, guys. Welcome to another night of What Women Want. We will be talking with Ash real soon. Here she is. She just needs to request access. I think that's what it's called. And then we're on. Guys, welcome Josh, Ross. All right. Raquel. Good to see you guys. If you got any questions, feel free to. Here she is.
Hey.
Long time no speak.
I know, right? We get sick of each other very soon.
Imagine all the time we spend together. For those that are jumping on now, feel free, guys, at any stage to post questions. We are all about engagement. So fire away. Ash, I'm going to just jump all over the place because that's what kind of works. But the first thing I want to know is, what is the difference for you in the relationship that you would have liked or had even 10 years ago to the relationship you find yourself in now and what you look for in a relationship?
Oh, wow. Probably couldn't be more different, honestly. So 10 years ago, Smashleigh was her name, let's be honest.
That a
She
girl.
was very much a party girl. Loved it. Obviously, that being a symptom of being really out of touch with myself, really not knowing who I was, really directionless, quite lost. Not to say that everyone who goes out and has a drink feels that way, but it was certainly what was going on in my life. And you can only imagine the types of people that I was interacting with around that time as well. My relationships back then, I think I was always with older men my whole life. I've never ever been with someone my own age. I'm 34 or younger. That's because I had a fundamental belief that I couldn't take care of myself, that I needed someone to look after me. I needed someone responsible because I was so irresponsible, so lost and directionless. I needed almost like a father figure kind of thing, someone who had their shit together because my shit was so not together. So that's kind of what I thought love for me was somebody who would just kind of take care of me or look after me and just keep me under control, ground me, so to speak. And I guess like the relationship I'm in now has kind of been very groundbreaking for me. So these beliefs only kind of just started to collapse as I met my current partner, Tim, who's 8 years younger than me, and probably the opposite in the best way of what I thought I needed for myself. He's obviously quite younger, but also just like very creative, very deep, very emotional, quite eccentric, quite chaotic, whereas I always thought that I needed somebody to provide the complete opposite of that because that's who I was. So, but I've only kind of reached this point where I appreciate him and love him wholly because I guess I provided myself through a lot of self-work with all that stability and all that grounding, the financial security, all that self-love, all the grounding and stability that I was seeking outside of me. I kind of cultivated that within myself. So then when I went to meet him, he didn't have to be this grown-up older man. He could just be this like amazingly impassioned, quite crazy, very emotional, beautiful person. And I experienced what real love was because I wasn't looking for someone to feel a part of me. I was whole, and then love just became this whole, open world to me, whereas I always thought it was like something really specific. So, yeah.
I love that. It's a really good point you make of like, and I don't think that many people really realize, but it's worth having to think about what it is that you're looking for in a partner and realizing that that's just an unowned part within you that you get to kind of explore. So if it's you're looking for a partner with fun, where's fun missing in your life? If you're looking for, a partner that's unconditional, these are all good traits, but how do you, be more unconditional to self? It's really interesting when you start to kind of use that as a mirror that you get to see kind of the unowned parts of you that you kind of get to step into, which you mentioned. One of the things I loved there, and I know you're a massive advocate for growth, is you mentioned the ways in which he's helped you expand as a human. What do you think the number one lesson might be for you, or what is the number one thing that he might have taught you in the time that you guys have been together?
I think well, it's not hard to probably realize that I'm quite a high masculine energy woman. You know, my job, my physical being, very, very strong, very powerful, very like directing. And you know, Tim and I are like, we just moved in together, so everything is amplified right now, and we're working through currently. I think this is probably the biggest growth period for us, is like the last couple of weeks, is because, you know, we always had our separate lives, and I'm quite introvert, extrovert. So when I was in my introvert phase, we weren't together, but now he has to kind of be you know, around me when I don't want anything to do with anybody and I just need to be by myself. But yeah, the polarity thing is becoming really apparent with us, because he's creative and quite emotional. It's kind of, you know, my go-to is to go hyper masculine and, you know, over function, take away all the control, like to take the control for myself, do too much, and then that displaces him a lot. So through like recognizing what's happening, or what has been happening with us, and that's my natural go-to, like we're kind of currently in the process of working through how I can be in my feminine more at home and separate my home and my work life, and allow him to kind of step into that stronger masculine role for me as well. And this has been like one of my hardest journeys, is to know how to be in balance. And I actually have tattoos that say love and power in a South American language, which is obviously masculine, feminine energy, like as a constant reminder to be in balance. And, you know, through this current kind of challenges we're facing, I guess it's really become apparent to me how my go-to is to go into my masculine as soon as I'm feeling stressed or feeling like I can't trust, I want to take control. Whereas he's teaching me to like surrender a little bit and to relinquish the control and allow him to kind of take that role for me. And it's actually a massive relief, you know, like thinking that you have to do everything every single day of your entire life is like so burdensome. And that's what I'd kind of come to accept, is through my healing journey, I became so strong and powerful because I had been so, I guess, powerless, or felt that way my whole life, that I almost went too far, to the point where it was hard for me to give that up because that felt too vulnerable to me and too exposing. So he's really helping me, you know, pull back on that and become like, step into my feminine more, like let him take charge. And it's actually really nice. I'm feeling probably the fact that we moved to Byron Bay is helping with the stress levels, but I mean, it's nice to actually, yeah, be able to soften and allow him to do that, and to just, yeah, receive more. That's been a really hard lesson for me. I'm great at giving and doing. I find it very uncomfortable to receive. So yeah, it's actually, we're still in this process right now. So this is like, it's kind of cool to experience it unfold and, you know, kind of have these challenges. It's been hard, but it's also been like really amazing as well. Yeah.
We talk about this a lot, so I'm interested in your opinion and hopefully being able to kind of share some light on that. What does that look like if you're, you know, whether it's your dynamic or you know, stuff that you've learned or whatever that may be, what does that look like when you're trying to surrender and soften somewhat into your feminine and empowering him or allowing him or a mix of both to step into the masculine? Is there anything, you know, because this is a super common theme, and the other part to that is, I guess, females struggling to have different energies or archetypes, and knowing how to move between, you know, girl boss mode and work boss into kind of a softened, you know, more feminine, if their core energy is feminine. So what is it that you do now that allows you to transition or to soften when you're out of work mode, and what does that look like in terms of empowering him to step into that side of things?
Yeah, that's actually, I think it's allowing, like, initially it's kind of started with me because I found like I was displacing him first and foremost. Like it was mainly me that was driving it, but I was the first one to just do everything, and then he had no place to show me how he was contributing, and therefore, you know, it looked like me actually just trusting, like letting go and trusting, because like I'm someone that like I'll just do everything because I just can't risk that it won't be done, because I have a big fear of being disappointed. So it was actually, and just accepting that not everything's going to be done my way as well. And that was a big thing. It's like everything had to be done a certain way. And that means that even if he did do something, I would emasculate him by fixing it or doing it better. You know what I mean? So it means like me just going, you know what? It doesn't actually matter. It doesn't matter. Like the control things, obviously, it's like a trauma response thing for me. I think it's just overdoing. So it was letting go of the small stuff and allowing him to build the confidence, because he was just not wanting to do anything either, because like I was constantly fixing him and fixing things and like going behind his back and doing it better, and like that's so emasculating, and it's just not, you know, I didn't feel good for me either. So it actually come to let me to just like trust a little bit more and just like let him prove to me that he's going to follow through, because that's a big thing for me, is following through. But also spending more time apart, me spending more time with other females is really important. I think you spoke about this. I saw a post that you did about a neutralization of a relationship when you spend a lot of time together. And Tim and I are very, very close. We're like best friends as well. We do so much together, but we're finding that was kind of happening. It was becoming, you know, not like a non-sexualized, but more just like matey sometimes as well. So I've really made an effort to spend more time with female friends, be around more female energy. Actually, I've been dressing very differently recently as well, which is interesting. Like the physical embodiment of feminine has been really powerful for me to actually like that. And like I thought Tim wouldn't like it. He's not, I don't know, he's always loved that I don't brush my hair and I don't wear makeup. And it's like that was one of the things he loved. It takes me literally 2 minutes to get out the door, and like that's very rare apparently. So I kind of didn't want to embody that feminine too much, because I felt like there was also a negative association with it. So actually just physically embracing that has been really, really lovely. And then I think he started to see me as more of his woman, as opposed to like this just like super fit, strong chick that he lives with. And yeah, I guess, yeah, we have different kind of attachment styles as well, which has been another polarity issue as well. Like I'm more avoidant. He's a bit more anxiously attached. I think that was kind of messing up our dynamic a little bit. So I've actively been learning to receive from him and lean on him and like go towards him whenever I'm feeling like I want to close down. Like I've been actively like opening myself up, and he's been actively creating that inner stability within himself before coming to me. And I think that's really helped us kind of separate into our other energies as well. So yeah, all these like kind of little things, we're still experimenting, and we're still, you know, we're fucking up here and there, and I'm still really bossy and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But we're getting really close to it. It's kind of, yeah, a work in progress, but we're getting there.
Yeah, it's cool. There's a lot in what you just said.
Yeah.
And it's almost, you know, for those that are tuning in now, it's almost worth re-listening to what she just said, because there's a lot of nuggets in there that she was spitting out very quickly. One thing I will say about that attachment style is how common that is, that secure and secure will often mate or come together, and how often an anxious and an avoidant come together, and it creates all types of shitstorms if you don't know how to manage that. So the fact that you've already started to think about, you know, different coping mechanisms, or what you need to do to, you know, to come out of that avoidant, and what he, you know, chooses to do to kind of come out of that anxious is a big play. So if any of you guys that are listening, you know, haven't looked into your attachment style, it's definitely worth making sense of. And I love what you say about stepping more into that feminine, and something so basic as the dress attire, and getting into those kind of flowy dresses, almost, how that naturally just helps you transition more into your core feminine energy. That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it's
so for those
simple.
that, you go with it. I was about to say, for those that are still trying to get their head around, you know, masculine, feminine core energy, you've obviously just kind of stated that you've over time developed obviously a strong masculine, and now trying to transition back into the feminine a little bit more. What else kind of has helped you with that?
I guess, well, one of the interesting things is our new flatmate here in Byron, Lauren, who I will introduce you to. She's a legend. She is A relationship coach, like an intimacy coach. She's extremely high feminine energy. Very like the way she talks, the way she dresses, like everything about her is like that. And just, I think simply being in her presence, I've been modeling her a lot more, like just her tonality. Like I talk really fast and I'm more like big energy all the time. She's very like, I'm like cocaine and she's like chamomile tea. You know what I mean? Like it's just, we're two different substances. And yeah, so I've just been like really modeling her. I think modeling is like one of the best tools, is to find someone who's like embodying what you're trying to achieve, and just watching them move, watching them talk, like listening to how they communicate, listening to like just watching how they move through the world, like how they describe themselves, how they describe their like the circumstances. And so she's been like a really positive kind of influence to have in my space. So that's been really big. Also just I guess like, again, being up in Byron Bay, like this is a very high feminine energy environment as well. And just like today, you know, I was going to go for that run, like after we had our work session, and I was just like, you know what? No, I'm just going to do a nice long stretch. Because then that for me, it's not so much about a physical control of my body. I'm always feeling like I need to be doing something every day, very high impact, high intensity. But like I had a high intensity day, and to actually go, no, what you need now is less intensity. You need to be like calming down your nervous system, not ramping it up towards the end of the day. So making active choices around how I'm moving my body, it's been big. There's been a lot less, like when I'm only doing CrossFit 3 times a week. When I last did CrossFit, it was 7 times a week. So 3, and then we're doing like surfing. I'm doing lots more walking, lots more breathing, just a lot of that yin kind of stuff, like the fit, like I'm a very kinetic person, so it's how I relate to my world. That's how I express myself. It's how I receive information and how I learn. It's all through my body. So to actually be learning to receive and slow down through physical practice has been really impactful, as far as like really like instilling it in my subconscious and in my body as well.
It's good. There's a question before from someone about attachment styles.
Yes.
It's a really good question. If you guys haven't done it, just jump online and type in attachment style quiz, and you'll pretty quickly work out your attachment style. And then from there, you can start to work out how it's working for and against you. It's a really good point that you make around energy as well. For those of you who are Aussies, Byron Bay is notorious or known for its very feminine energy. So that serves, you know, the core feminine energy, and it definitely serves the masculine. But there is a definitely a theme amongst men up here who, you know, definitely in touch with their feminine, and if they're not aware of it, can find themselves definitely going too far down the feminine path. So that will help you. And I think energetically, I can't remember the rock that it sits on. There's some people on here that might know better, but it might be lava rock or something that energetically, the way that Byron's positioned, it's very kind of grounding and very healing as well. So apologies to those who have stepped here before us and who know better, but I can't remember. It's lava or something along the lines of that. Where was I going to go? Oh, so you've mentioned numerous times on your page about, you know, your struggles around, you know, different elements of mental health. What has helped you, you know, in terms of the dynamic in a relationship? What has been helpful for you in terms of how Tim, or even, you know, previously, whether there's been anyone that's been a good guide when it comes to kind of being there as a support? What have been some good tools that have helped you through your kind of more challenging times?
Yeah, that's interesting. It's kind of hard for me to pinpoint when all of this began for me, like when the huge, you know, awakening, or it was more like an existential crisis, if I'm honest. Like it was a big slap in the face and a big like reality check. I think a big thing for me was definitely healing my relationship with my body first and foremost. Obviously, like I said, I'm a very physical person, so to be really out of rapport or have absolutely zero love and respect for the vehicle that is like you're traveling through this life in was was pretty huge. And that was actually the biggest healing of my relationship with my body, was through my first, like, well, probably my second most significant relationship. I'd say Tim is my most significant, but is the first person that I felt truly loved for beyond anything physical. And that was when I was healing from a second relapse in an eating disorder, and I gained like a fair bit of weight, and I was obviously extremely paranoid that he was going to not love me anymore. But like, he literally looked at me and he's like, "What are you talking about? I didn't notice." I was 8 kilos heavier, and I was mortified, and I was like, "When is he going to say something?" And he's like, "What? No, you haven't gained it. What are you talking about?" And I was like, "Oh my God, this person actually doesn't care, doesn't notice it." Like, and it was like a huge thing for me. And I think that was, although that relationship ended on great terms or whatever, that was like a massive healing process, was to just go, wow, like, I was a gymnast my whole life growing up. So my way of gaining love was, and attention, was through performing physically. And it was all very physically based and perfection complex, all that kind of stuff. So to have somebody who like, didn't even notice that I felt the most disgusting I'd ever felt in my life was like phenomenal. But so beyond that, like, anyway, the tools that I guess I've used the most is NLP. I started studying after that. I was introduced to that through a couple of friends, and just through understanding like a lot about my family dynamics, about like my map of the world through early childhood and through my early experiences, was really profound at helping me kind of piece together that what I knew was my truth and how I saw things, but not really knowing why. And then obviously the tools that you learn through that to kind of repattern, break down all that stuff. That's been an ongoing thing that I kind of dip back into every now and again. I use those kind of techniques with clients, but also like big one was plant medicine. It's massive. That's like, 1,000 hours of therapy wrapped into a few short hours. And I won't go too much into that, but I mean, yeah, that was probably the most profound experiences I've had, and that I will continue to revisit for the rest of my life, simply because I feel like it's a really efficient path to getting to the bottom of your shit. But yeah, that also, I've done lots of traditional therapy as well, like talk therapy, which, is beneficial for certain things, maybe not for others, but, it's definitely helped me through a bit. But then again, I also have like daily practices, which I think are very overlooked, like rituals, which help me kind of stay on track. But specifically in regards to relationships, definitely plant medicine as well, because it, like a lot of relationships, relationships with others are only a reflection of relationships with ourselves. So as soon as I started cleaning up my own house, I was beginning to attract a higher quality kind of partner, and able to maintain that relationship without sabotaging it in whatever way I used to. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess I've read that emotional intelligence book was really good. That was actually a really good one for me. I know Tim is currently working through, like, learning about attachment theory was really important for me as well. So we've got that Wired for Love book, which we're going to currently be both working through, which is about attachment theory. Tim's currently doing a course as well, which is really cool. I've never been with a partner who is like so just committed to like making this work together and improving as individuals, but also as part of a relationship, as part of a partnership. Like, it's just, to me, it's always been unheard of for someone to actively kind of go out and seek that kind of help. So that's been amazing. But yeah. Did that answer your question? I kind of forgot what it was.
I actually have no idea what my question was, but it was a good answer all the same.
It's a lot that just got covered there.
There's a lot of juice in that. Aussie Alpha Coaching, what plants? You're a bit of ayahuasca, aren't you?
Oh, I've done ayahuasca, kambo, like mushrooms, mescaline, like San Pedro. What else? All of it. Like, probably all of it.
Same.
Yeah.
I love how you say a few short hours. My fucking God, they're not short hours. They are long hours when you're under the spell.
Yeah. Well, it definitely does. I don't know, like, but compared to, like, I feel like the density of it is so rich, it feels like long, but in one journey, like, I uncovered stuff that, I could have never uncovered, because you can't consciously access that. Yeah. So yeah, definitely short in that sense.
I don't know. One of the things I'll say to Aussie Alpha is, and Ash, I'm sure you'll probably agree. When it comes to plant medicine, obviously we've got to be careful what we say because it's illegal in Australia. is you definitely want to feel called to it as opposed to jumping out and doing it. And that's a common
100%.
theme, you know, amongst shaman. They'll tell you the same thing. Wait till you feel called to it and then choose it. But yeah, I've pretty much done the same forms as Ash, and it's getting some really good traction now overseas in terms of microdosing on psilocybin and MDMA for different therapies, anxiety, depression. So it's only a matter of time, but until some big pharma can monetize it, which is going to potentially ruin the whole thing.
Spirit of it, yeah.
And
that is, I'll second what you say on the calling. I mean, the first time I ever did it, I traveled to South America by myself, you know, on a plane, and I was kicking and screaming, crying at the gate. I was terrified. I wasn't curious. I wasn't excited, but I absolutely knew that I was being called, and like, there was so much resistance, and for me that's when but I couldn't not go, and that's why it felt so true to me, is because I was so scared and so not excited and so terrified of the whole experience. But it was groundbreaking for me, and I hope it doesn't become legalized, to be honest, like, because that would just completely ruin it, wouldn't it?
It completely defeats the whole purpose of what that's really about. What's interesting with that, you know, for anyone who is considering doing, you know, any form of plant medicine, especially probably the harder stuff, so ayahuasca, is I don't reckon anyone goes into those ceremonies comfortable, because you don't know what you're going to get, and it's different every time. So, you know, whether it's your first medicine or whether it's your 50th, there's still that kind of edgy nervousness of what ride you're going to get taken on.
Absolutely. I've been in ceremonies where the shaman just gets like bitch slapped and they can't move, you know what I mean? They can't actually like sing or service anyone because they like have a small amount, and then just get absolutely floored by it because there's something that they needed to learn that night, or there's something that came up. And you know, these people do it hundreds and hundreds, they do it every day sometimes, and they're still susceptible to having a very, very strong experience. So you got to respect it in that respect. Yeah.
You talk about healing a lot, which I love, and I think, you know, it's a bit of a common thread that, you know, whether it's obviously what we're attracting with momentum, or even you know, on a personal level from a coaching, there's a lot of females that, you know, are somewhat disappointed that their partner isn't on that kind of growth and evolution, at least at the same rate that they are. How do you, from your side of things anyway, what does that look like from an encouragement point of view? Because, you know, I'll talk about maybe the male experience in a sec, but from a female point of view, I guess one of the challenges is to dance lightly on that topic, as opposed to feeling like the emasculating ball and chain that's trying to nudge him into it. But from your side of things, you know, if a female's listening, they're like, I'd love for my guy to do, you know, growth and evolve. What does that look like from an empowering nudge, as opposed to castrating?
When it's interesting, because when Tim and I first met, it was at the start of the year, and I was thinking that I was going to travel overseas all 2020. Lol. Anyway, so when we first got together, the reason, like, he said to me on like our second date or something, like, I'm a big bucket of red flags. You don't want to go near me, and like, you know, that kind of like stay away shit. And I was like, okay, whatever, bro. I'm not here anyway. Let's don't get too caught up. So he was very openly admitting that he didn't have his shit together at all, and he didn't. Like, he really didn't. Like, he was engaging in some pretty, you know, outrageous, destructive behaviors. He was very open with me about it, which I also really appreciated. There was nothing to hide, and I was accepting of it, because I didn't see him as the kind of man that I could ever be with, because the age thing, but also, you know, he basically told me straight up that he's like a bad person to date. So I was like, okay, what do you do with that? But you know, we got stuck together because of COVID, which is nice. But through that, like, I never preached to him. I would just kind of, I think, observe my behaviors and observe how I deal with things and observe my language. And then we would just, I guess, I'd explain my experiences and the benefit of it for me. And I'd kind of, you know, I wanted him to heal, but not because I thought that I wanted to be with him, but because I wanted him to be, you know, who he really was, which wasn't a big bucket of red flags. It was like this beautiful soul. It was just making, you know, that was just a great defense mechanism for him. But so yeah, I was leading big time by example. But I think one of the biggest things with with like him in particular, and he has given me permission to share this all, by the way, so there's no lines being crossed here, but Tim was very much associated in his sexuality and his sexual being as that being his masculinity, and that was his masculine power, was being some kind of sex god sort of thing. So, and for me, like, you know, that was fun for a little bit, but obviously it was very short-lived as far as like what was keeping my attention. But I think for him, it was about like explaining to him and slowly kind of seeding into him, but the sexiest thing for a woman is a man who's got his shit together. Like, you could be so attractive and so charismatic and so funny, but if you don't have your shit together, if you like, that is the most solid form of masculinity, is just like, you know, that divine masculinity, that kind of having the ability and the strength to hold all my emotions as well sometimes when I need him to do that for me, and to be able to trust him and rely on him. And, you know, I was just seeding that kind of brand of masculinity into him and exposing him, I guess, to some literature, to some of my experiences, some of my friends. So it was all through like osmosis, I would say, that this is kind of starting to seep into his subconscious. And he was also seeing a therapist at the time, which was great. And she was very team-ash. She was like initially very against him being in a relationship because he wasn't quite ready. But then I guess, you know, through listening to what she was like, I was saying, and he was reporting in, she was like, no, this is good. So yeah, I guess nobody likes being forced into anything. Nobody likes to be belittled into anything. No one likes to be threatened into making change. I guess for me, it was about really modeling for him the kind of relationship or the kind of partnership or kind of environment that I wanted. And that was like, you know, mutual respect, two people who were growing towards a common goal. And yeah, I just exposed him to, I guess, some of the stuff I was reading. But yeah, it was more so sharing, like, even little subtle things. Like, we'd be sitting on the couch and I would read a quote, and it'd be like a Mark Groves quote, who's like fantastic at communicating, you know, that kind of stuff. And I'd read it, I'm like, what do you think about this? You know, what do you reckon about that? And it'd just be like small things about dropping ideas in and expressing what I think is like really cool and really insightful, and just seeing the reaction and having discussion. And it was kind of like, as we grew closer, I think his motivation to want to meet me there became stronger and stronger. So yeah, I guess that was my way of doing it, was lead by example and just try and surround him with a lot of the stuff that would help, I guess, I know, open up his mind to it. And yeah, it didn't take long before, like, it was a big transition in our relationship. And yeah, we grew very close very quickly.
Yeah, you mentioned open mind there, which I actually posted about last week, I think, is probably just about my favorite trait in someone these days. What do you look at as really healthy, important traits, at least in your eyes, you know, when you're kind of talking about the masculine or blokes?
Ooh. I guess, yeah, I think somebody who, it's really hard. So my model of masculinity from my life was, I have a great relationship with my father. My father I'm one of those very lucky women who has no daddy issues. My dad is rock solid. And like, so my particular model for masculinity was actually, my dad's quite a gentle person. He's quite, you know, he's very calm. He hardly ever gets angry. He doesn't show any aggression. He's firm though. Like, when you cross the line with him, he's got very obvious boundaries. But he's like the ultimate kind of almost stoic in a sense, but not so much. He's also quite soft. Like, I've seen him cry a couple of times. It's quite cute. So I guess for me, like, masculinity, because I have such a positive relationship with him, has always been about being very grounded and very, very, I kind of in support of the feminine as well. Like, one thing I love about Tim is that he's got like a heap of sisters, and his whole family are just these phenomenal women. They're amazing. There's like no guys in his family. And so he has this like inherent love and respect for women, and it shows through, like, it really does. He's got very nurturing kind of person. And I think just that, like, that really obvious respect for women and the female spirit is so nice, especially in these days and day and age. So yeah, groundedness, I guess, open-mindedness. Yeah, someone who is like, they don't have to be perfect, but I guess on some kind of path of growth and development, whether it be career-wise or something, like someone who has passion and purpose. I guess like that is a very high masculine thing for me, because I'm someone who's very driven. So I need someone who's very driven. Otherwise, I'll just, I can't do it. You know what I mean? Like again, that will force me to step into that role. So yeah, it's important for me. Masculinity is somebody who's, yeah, very purposeful, very reliable, very grounded, none of that kind of aggressive, kind of overt alpha kind of shit, because I'll out alpha them for sure. That's what happens. I don't respond well to that. So yeah, I guess those are the most important things. Again, and for me, personally, I think based on the fact of like my father modeled masculinity in this really beautiful way for me, and so I have so much respect for that energy, that kind of divine masculine energy, which is just, yeah, it's not ego. It's like so supportive, but in a completely different way. Yeah.
The Aubrey Marcus, who we're both a fan of, he sent an email. I reckon it was last week or the week before. He's actually been in Sedona recently with his Fit for Service mastermind, which I'm part of. Clearly, I can't fucking be there because I'm stuck in Australia. But they had their retreat at the end of a period of time, and one of the exercises that they did was actually through Steph Stantanos, I think his name is, and his wife Christine Hassler, and it was actually where all the guys at the whole retreat bowed down, like literally on their knees, and bowed down and put their hands and forehead on the women's feet. And Aubrey didn't think much of the exercise. And then, I don't know, a minute or two went past and literally every female started sobbing because of what's happened there in terms of, being indoctrinated and obviously the difference in terms of roles and just the way that, I guess, women, potentially have been treated. How has that potentially looked in relationships for you as a female? How does that look amongst, your girlfriends, mum, any females? Because I think it's like when I read that, I was blown away as well. It's like, what the fuck are they crying for? Like, do you know what I mean? And then I was telling, a good girlfriend, and she started crying as well. I was like, fuck, okay, there's something in this. But how does that look from your side of the fence, so we can at least start to kind of educate guys on what it feels like?
It's true. Like even though I had a great father, it doesn't mean that I was immune to some absolute fuckboy behavior in my time, like atrocious kind of stuff that is so normalized for a man to be sleeping with multiple women and having absolutely no idea about it, and taking no responsibility for it, or just blatant lying and ghosting, all this kind of stuff that's like is really accepted. And I know it's females as well that do it, but there's a vast majority of, I guess, some of that behavior that just seems to be like, so nobody even talks about it at all. And even like a situation the other day and just on this level, like, and this really annoyed me, a situation the other day where a mutual friend was talking about a bunch of people, and he only remembered all the men in the group's name. Like, he didn't remember, like, we all met at the same time, and he only, this is nothing that was conscious to him. It was like, we all met in a group, and so he met this whole group, and it was like a few men and their female partners, and he remembered all the men's names, but none of the females' names. He was like, oh, this person's partner. And I'm like, what's her name? And he's like, oh, I don't know. Like, it was his girlfriend. I'm like, what's her fucking name? Like, just this subconscious acknowledgement only of the men, and like that kind of thing. And like, it's like micro stuff. But I mean, I feel that the women aren't being acknowledged. They're somebody's girlfriend or they're somebody's partner. And that's, it's really frustrating to me. Also, like the whole thing, and this is one thing that Tim is amazing about. Like, he never makes me feel like having a girlfriend is a burden, or like I'm not part of the group or anything like that. Like, growing up throughout my life, the girls were not allowed to come on boys' night, and like, there was like this separation of like human beings into categories of, girls who do their thing. And even like, it's so foreign to me. In my childhood, I grew up in a mixed kind of group, and I have a brother, so like always around men my whole life. And then all of a sudden, at some point, it becomes boys and girls go out on the girls' nights and do God knows fucking what, and so do the boys. And it just seems so distorted to me. But yeah, especially in relationship, it's been an experience when I've been in a relationship with somebody, like their male friends like don't like it. You're not accepted because you're a hindrance or whatever. So it's kind of like all this kind of little micro stuff that over time you do feel like you're there to serve a purpose, but then in other senses you're not treated as an equal, even though on a conscious level people might say that you are, but subconsciously there's all these little things that happen that I pick up on all the time that you know, even like men treat you differently, like whether they think it's like okay to come and fucking creep on you at the gym or talk to you, or like being told that you have to smile in the street and all this stuff. Like it's our duty to always be friendly and pretty and tolerate feeling uncomfortable for the sake of not being rude to a man. Like this has been stuff that I've been taught my whole life, and I'm only just kind of pushing up against. And you know, I never wanted to upset anyone or put myself in danger, so I smiled and played the part and wore makeup to the gym and shit, because I felt like it was also my duty to be attractive constantly. But you know, now I'm kind of pushing up against all of this stuff, and yeah, I feel like we're coming a long way, but I feel like women are still seen as like there's certain duties that we have to kind of fulfill, and I'm like, I don't always feel like an equal, which is pretty sad.
Yeah, it's fucked. There's a really good book, Glennon Doyle, Untamed, that really starts to kind of break that away for anyone kind of tuned in. That really, I found, cool book for women to try to break away from some of these shitty stigmas. And I think, you know, in terms of being on the other side of the fence, is there's not a conscious malice intent behind a lot of this. It's just, it's literally, you know, wired into our DNA from such a young age, literally from birth, that now, you know, we're learning to unprogram and unpattern a lot of this stuff that's, you know, wired pretty heavily in. So it's a bit of a process, you know, to kind of move forward. But I think, you know, it's starting to shift, which is cool. One of the final things I love that you mentioned in one of your posts was the fact that you guys are quite proactive, or have been at least proactive in therapy, which I fucking love, because for most people it's not until shit hits the fan that they decide to take some kind of action. What inspired that, and what have you seen transform as a result of that?
Yeah, that was actually a big groundbreaking moment for us. Tim and I tend to have like these little growth spurts, and then we cruise, and then we hit like a whole new level. And I think I love this. Mark Groves once said this is how I really love to explain this now into myself and to him, is like when you're expanding the container of your love, like when the love grows and you're moving to a next level, the container of it kind of cracks a bit, it fractures in order to make room for the next level, for the expansion of the relationship. So often when we hit these points where everything feels like it's fallen to shit, it's because we're actually expanding to another level, and where we currently are can no longer contain that. So we need to kind of fall apart a bit in order for the expansion to happen. And it was like we kind of, I think I told you this story, Tim and I were like not going to be together. We decided at the start that we were like not made for each other. We should just call it quits because this is becoming a disaster. And then we took like 3 grams of MDMA one afternoon on my balcony in Bondi. And just like, you know, and I shouldn't be talking about this, is highly illegal.
Go for it. This is how we operate.
And so I ended up like dancing completely topless, like slow dancing on my balcony with absolutely no shirt on at like 6 p.m, like in the shared space, mind you, with no music playing. Anyway, it was a beautiful moment. And we kind of realized that we needed to kind of make it happen, because we didn't really have a choice. We knew that we were in love with each other, but we just didn't have the tools, and we just were so scared of what that meant. And so then after that, everything was great. And then all of a sudden we were like, okay, we didn't actually figure this out, like how we're going to do it. So he was already in therapy with his current therapist, Kylie. And I guess we're having communication problems. And because I was really aware of attachment theory, I was really aware of codependency and all these kind of things. But he didn't yet have that language. And so it was like me trying to teach him and mummy him into something, and it wasn't working, because obviously when I'm expressing my view, it's coming through my lens. So he's going to be like, oh, well, that's biased. So of course it's hard to receive that information from your partner. So it was actually his suggestion, because we were just having these issues in conflict where like, we weren't breaking through. It was just kind of going around in circles, and things kept coming up. So he suggested that, we went and sat down with her, and it was amazing, because she was able to validate my experience for on my behalf in front of him, because obviously when he was going to talk to her, it was all his experience and his view, and so she was getting a one-sided thing. But with me there, trying to, like, she was kind of like the mediator between it, and she was validating us both, and also like providing us with tools and a bit like of a clearer explanation of what my experience was and what his was, and how we actually both have a mutually beneficial kind of outcome for a challenge, when we were just constantly trying to defend our space. You know, what I need, my needs are this, well, my needs are this, and like, well, mine are this. It was just this back and forth. So it was like a, you know, a negotiation, like a negotiator kind of thing. And it was really cool. We walked out, like, it was hard. It was very hard for him, because I think he had to accept the truths when he'd been able to deny it, because it was just coming from my view. But I was, I guess, a bit further ahead. So it kind of helped us, you know, understand each other, and for him to really understand what it's like for me, because previous to that, because of my my avoidant nature and because of my introvert nature, when I go inside and when I retreat, that was seen as a massive rejection, where it was literally just me trying to regain some energy and some perspective, and to be able to, but like, yeah, it would actually heighten the situation when, you know, when really it was, you know, very healthy for me to be able to do that and come back and talk. So yeah, I was really pleased that he invited me to do that, and we had like so much groundbreaking kind of, you know, groundbreaking stuff happening after that. Communication just went to a completely different level when we knew what we needed to do when we were getting flooded, and like, you know, when we needed to take space and all this kind of stuff, and the kind of just language things that we could use as a way to not trigger each other, because there were certain things that I was saying that was like, were coming across as quite triggering to him, and I didn't realize, and vice versa. Like, he'd use certain words that would just set me off for some reason, and then I couldn't see straight. I was like, fuck. So yeah, it was really beneficial. And yeah, and since then we've kind of been working separately with different coaches on our own individual stuff as well, which is now kind of cohesively helping us in relationships. So we haven't done a therapy session together since that. Not that we wouldn't. I think we're going to talk about doing it, you know, soon or sometime soon. But yeah, we kind of also, I feel like when we can sort our own shit out, then we show up better in our relationship as well. So because we have such different issues going on, to work with them, separate people who are really good at kind of dealing with that, it's been really beneficial at helping us kind of come together more effectively. Yeah, more cohesively.
I love that. And I think one of the big things, you know, one of the challenges for many is that bias. Like, you know, the amount of times that, you know, I might work with one of the girlfriends or the wives, and she'll be like, I just can't get this message through to my partner. You know, I think whether it's him understanding that there's a biased opinion in it, you know, there's an ego element, or there's a lack of awareness. I think those three things often show up, and for that reason, it just kind of gets deflected and defended back. And then, you know, I might have one session with him, and within 15 minutes, I've managed to tell him the same thing that she's been saying for 10 years. But because it's coming from a different spot, it lands instantly. And she's like, fuck, I've been telling him that for 10 years. You told him in 15 minutes, and it kind of landed. But, you know, I think that's a pretty common theme, unfortunately, for many, is that, you know, sometimes your message doesn't land, you know, for whatever reason. So good insights there. Final question. 3 things that you think it would be great, speaking on behalf of every single female on this planet. It's a bit rough, I won't make you do that. But speaking on behalf of your own, speaking on behalf of your experience, and even if you've got, you know, girlfriends that fall into this category, 3 things that you think would make for better relationships, or that would be good for guys to know, that would be beneficial to relationships?
I think everyone should learn love languages, like exactly what theirs is and what their partner's is. Like, that is just like one of the most fundamental things that people don't pay attention to. Like, whether you're single or you're in a relationship or you're trying to attract a partner, like, at least knowing how you love to receive love and how to communicate that is so important. That's just, yeah, if you don't know what love languages are, that's definitely one to go get. I guess the most, like I said before, like, I know it's dying.
You're back.
I think, am I back? Okay, good.
Yep.
I think, like I said before, and I always reiterate this, like, I think like sex is a phenomenal tool for connection, but for women, like for us to feel in that space, to be able to relax into that level of intimacy, the man needs to be like solid, like he needs to be showing up solidly, you know what I mean? Because you can, I feel like that is the most connected space you can be in, is when like a woman is completely open and ready to receive and just like so turned on. The sexiest thing a guy can do is to just like literally just really be solid and work on himself and have his shit together. Like you don't always have to have your shit together, but I mean like that is what really helps women open up, and that's what helps women relax into it. And you know, I think men, a lot of men, this is not all, but I think having a woman who's completely sexually open to him is just like a dream, you know what I mean? And I think that creates just such a beautiful connection. So that, I think that's really important. Like a lot of people just think like sex is about the actual act that's happening in the bedroom and who's touching who where and whatever. It's absolutely got nothing to do with that. It's got to do with like what's happening, what the tone of the relationship is, and then that obviously then just completely solidifies that, you know. I think that's really important, is, you know, for people, but also it's a hard one, I guess. I don't know, I think just really getting in touch with your feminine energy as well, and like learning how to have just like that ultimate respect for feminine energy and not seeing it as something that's purely female. Because I always used to think that as a quite a masculine woman, I needed a super masculine man to out masculine me. But like Tim has got more like beautiful feminine energy, like than in any man that I've ever been with, and it's just like the most amazing thing. It's like I'm in awe of it, you know what I mean? Like, and his obviously feminine energy is different to mine because it's, you know, still masculine. But I think him really leaning into that, he didn't like those words initially. Like it was very triggering for me to describe his feminine energy. Like he was like, what the fuck? Like, not feminine. And I'm like, no, it's not that. It's actually really beautiful, and more men need to actually start to tap into their feminine side, because once you tap into it, you just start to have like a whole another level of respect for that. And obviously that translates in relationships as well. And just really look into the differences between the masculine and feminine, and what's healed and wounded masculine and healed and wounded feminine, and what's divine in each of these characters, each of these categories as well. Because it's a bit more nuanced than people might think. And masculinity isn't all that kind of bravo alpha bullshit. Like that's one form, and that's usually not the best one. So yeah.
It's probably not the carry on that many women are after, that style of masculine that blokes are tapping into. But I'll work that out. Beautiful. Ash, that was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Guys, if you're on, I'd probably, because she talks so fast, there's so much juice in there.
I've got to
But you love it. You're doing very well. There's a lot of juice in there, so you might need to go back and replay it 3 or 4 times just to pick up all her bombs. But guys, thanks for jumping on. Back next Tuesday night with Men with Momentum. And until then, have a good week.